Hey all. So this is War 5, and this was actually a Saturday war while my family was down in town watching a musical, and so I did not plan this one. That went to Nahorn. I'll be linking his channel in the description. But that is also why you see me on this weird aspect ratio. Well, this more common aspect ratio, because I almost always play on my iPad. I prefer it. My big thumbs don't get in the way. I'm less likely to accidentally miss the special button. Just in general, I avoid this for war fights whenever I can. But that, you know, sometimes doesn't work out, and so that's why I am doing this. I've taken Void on node 26, which is also a hazard shift fight before. That one is Conflictor, so this one is easier. But it's basically just bait out heavies and get those pauses sometimes. But the important thing is really just relying on the hazard shift node um, to get my pauses. And then on top of that, watching our combo so that we try not to get too many debuffs on us. Now, of course, that right there is actually why I try to stick to dashing in during the specials, because I'm actually less likely to mess up when I do, as you saw there, but whatever. That's just a couple potions. And we move on. Still a very strong counter. There are better ones, but primarily on the basis of just being truly double immune. The class advantage, or the class disadvantage, does hurt us, but we get through it just fine. And of course, these next two fights are the reason why we're using Carl and not some other double immune, because they're both cosmics and he just rinses them. Knull, of course, is a very funny one. We would prefer not to deal with any encroaching corruption at all, which means that we are going to do our 4-hit combos, not finish them, and immediately block. He's going to hit into us. We're going to feel it because we don't have physical resistance while we're in magma, but that's okay because the important thing is trying to push him to his special 2, really staying on top of this, and then we'll just get the small amount of healing we get through Despair from his non-damaging debuffs, and that'll just keep us from losing too much here. But then this is the important part. We're going to go ahead and refine immediately. We get the slightest amount of healing from it after that medium, light, medium, but for the most part, those huge energy vulnerabilities that we put on our opponent once we're at 600 morph charges just means he finishes himself off by hitting into our block and burning alive. Carl's dramatic. Anyway, we move on to this Nova. I throw down a Petrify. I'm not going to keep it up. There's a good argument that maybe I should have not done this anyway, or not done this at all since I had an invulnerability boost up. But we are just going to be baiting a lot of specials from Nova, and we're going to hit his block when we can. Now, the other thing I want to call out about Nova is that I've seen a lot of fights against him with Absorbing Man not go particularly well because you'll see people throw their Special 1 or Special 2 and go into Refined that way. Problem being, of course, that when you do that, you are going unblockable. Love that little Dex fail there. You are going unblockable and therefore supercharging Nova's kit because that is how he works. If he is struck with an unblockable attack, then he gains extra charges and it does less damage. So the special is not the kill shot you're hoping for. Love that parry there. The AI was really going for it. The special is not the kill shot you're going for, and you end up putting him in a much more dangerous position where he can do a lot of damage to you. So that's why this has all been a long-winded lead up to when I fight Nova with Carl, I go for the special 3. Because it's going to get you refined, it's going to get you that long pause, and your crit rate increase, but you're not going to have to worry about ever going unblockable. And so then we move on to Thing, another class advantage, or another class disadvantage fight, excuse me. This one definitely has its dangers, because one thing that Carl is good about versus Thing is that if you do happen to mess up your rock stacks and you stun him, hit into him, the unstoppable is so short that you can usually get away with it. But the problem is on this node, if that happens while we have any shocks on us from the hazard shift node, we're not going to be able to stun him, and we won't be able to do that safely. And so that's why you see me blocking there, trying to bait out a heavy, because I am going to be trying to manage his rock stacks really efficiently here. We are going to get some shocks on us. You can see that they are net negative because our opponent is definitely running max despair, and so we're not getting the full benefit of willpower. But that is okay, because our energy resistance is keeping it from ticking away too much. And the important part of this fight is really just staying on top of his rock stacks. We can heal up afterwards. That is not a problem. You see there, we just do the 3-hit combo purely to manage the rock stacks. And then now we're going to try and bait out a heavy, and there we go. Heavy counter into the special 2. We get those crits. The actual hits themselves are pretty small, so we don't have to worry about protection, but the crit bursts are very nice. And then notice how instead of a 5-hit combo right there, we did medium, light, medium, and then medium, medium, because that gave Thing enough power to get over a bar in 5 hits, as opposed to being at about half a bar, and then we would have had to worry about rock stacks. So I bait this out, wait for time to land the full 5-hit combo, and there we cancel into one last special 2. I will also point out that Thing's unblockable buff, appearing and then disappearing during his specials, counts as a buff ending and gives Carl that extra little pause. Lots of little nuances that make him better than you might think at first for that fight. So we're now back on the iPad. The musical was good. Now I'm home. And we have Carl versus Terrax, arguably the fight he was built for. And this is going to be pretty straightforward, honestly. It's a low sig Terrax, so we're not going to get that many armor breaks at the start. Unless, of course, he lets us block more hits, and we can try and keep his power rate that much higher so that he never falls out of it. And there we go. Managed to get to the special 2 before he falls out of rock field. That's the good stuff. So then we move on to Longshot, who is generally rude, but of course his 2 primary threats are his special 1 and 2 while he has Pure of Heart up. The special 1, if it hits you, will inflict a bunch of instant bleeds. The special 2, even if it doesn't hit you, will incinerate you and do a lot of damage. And so that's why we're going to stay in magma form, because I am significantly more scared of the special 2 than I am the special 1, and we're just going to need to make sure we're not hit by the special 1. So we are going to try and get our intercepts here. Once we whiff, we just wait out the heavy. Notice that I don't try and hit into him, because that is when the AI parries you, always. He goes ahead, throws the special 2 with Pure of Heart up. Notice that we are immune to the Incinerate debuff, and therefore we even manage to get a pause from it. But as I was saying, we are going for our intercepts, because with the change to this node in the most recent patch, protection does apply to red numbers, meaning our energy bursts and our incinerates would not be doing as much if we didn't intercept, but because we do, they do some really nice damage there, and that is a very clean, quick fight. That is definitely a little more on the Absorbing Man 102 side of things. It's a fight that he is very good for, but you saw me go for some intercepts that I normally tell people not to go for. Then we have Reed against Mangog. I have, of course, taken this many, many times, although I'm not sure I have this season yet. Funny how that works out. But the basic idea is, of course, just you know, stay on top of him, basically. The important thing, if you haven't taken this fight before, is basically don't block, or don't dex the specials, because that'll give him power. Just rely on your evade. And then, although you want to ramp with the special 2, the important thing is to actually make sure you have a special 1 for when he starts to go unblockable and unstoppable. So really watch his rage stacks. Now, one thing that can make that easier is if you do what I did there. Now, I messed up, and I was going for a heavy counter, and I was at the wrong spacing, and so I got hit by the last hit of the special 1. But as you can tell, that actually worked out very much in my favor, because that ramped me, that finished the Careful Study debuff and turned it into a passive, so now I have more combat power, and I'm hitting harder. And now I have my special 3 after he gets to 10 stacks, instead of a special 1 or a special 2. Plus he puts a stagger on me and I heal from the willpower, and so I think going forward when I take this fight, if he throws 2 special 1s in a row, I will intentionally get hit by the last hit of 1 just to finish my ramp and lock that down. Because it worked out really well, and I probably should have been doing that for a long time. Anyway, we move on to Korg here. This is a rank 5 Sig 200 Korg boss. And so I take a look at it, and I'm like, you know what? The last few times this has happened, it's gone really well. I've been fighting Korg recently in Battlegrounds. I'm on top of it. But that doesn't change our rules. Our rules are, we duel. And so even though in this particular fight I'm not going to be able to start in Magma because that's how duels work, we do practice our lights to get the pauses. See, there it is again. And so then I'm like, okay, now I have to make sure I start a little sooner because we cannot risk him dexing out and then punishing us or, God forbid, parrying us. And so already I fixed something about my timing that makes this duel completely worth it. See, there it is again. It's getting more consistent. That's the kind of thing you want to check in on. We haven't gotten to Magma yet, so we are still having to play around Thorns. But now we have it. We can throw it. Notice our attacks are now energy. We're taking nothing back. We need to make sure that we get in some more special 1 dexes here. Continuing to practice the pauses. There we go. That's the dex. For those of you who don't have it yet, remember, it is just earlier than you think, especially for the first one. Keep working on the pauses, because this will be a hazard shift node. I probably will not need the pauses at all. The primary reason I'm dueling is actually for the special 1 evade, but I don't want to be in a position where I wish that I had the spacing, or I think I have the spacing and I'm wrong and I lose the fight because of it. So that's why I'm making sure to practice something I don't think I'll actually need for the fight, just to have more tools. So we try and get 1 more special 1 dex out of him here, and again practice the pause 1 more time off the heavy, and he doesn't throw it. So there we go. But honestly, that's fine. I feel completely rejuvenated after that. That is the things that I needed to check in on. We're going to be using an invulnerability boost anyway. Let's go ahead and head in. And yep, of course it's a Sig 200. Why wouldn't it be? But that's why we left node 49 up, so that Carl can have those free pauses from Hazard Shift, and I don't have to play as fancy as I did in that duel just there. And here we go. It is a rank 5. That is 671,000 health. I don't believe I've taken a rank 5 Korg anywhere yet. Good on Legion for ranking him up. And let's do this. As a refresher, being in Magma does allow us easy access to pausing, right? But the flip side of it is what you've already seen in me losing 15% health on block. And that is that we do not have our physical resistance. We have energy resistance. We have no physical resistance at all. We have only average block proficiency. And we have actually a below average health pool for the body type. And so that is kind of the reason that Carl's resistances are as aggressive as they are, because when he doesn't have them, when he's forced to use a mode that leaves him open elsewhere, like in this fight, it would be very easy for me to die quickly to a couple missed special 1 dexes, and we would probably be in the danger zone even just from blocking them consistently, and so that's why I'm going for all these dexes. We're fine leaving some flourish on him because it actually means he throws more special 2s relative to special 1s, but we do want to manage them, and if he starts building too many, then we're going to try and get him back below the acceptable level of crowd excitement so that we can hit into his block and reset them, because I would rather take some block damage. See, there it is. We hit into his block once, he's below 6, so it's fine. I would rather take some block damage and or bait special 1s than worry about him going to his special 3, which would really be a death sentence. So we use the power gain to our benefit when we can, but we also keep it from climbing too far. You want to balance both of those things when you are taking a big planetary endurance defender. But you can see that even through the energy resistance from the node, we are doing really good damage here. The big vulnerability from getting it to enough morph charges helped a ton, but even outside of that, we're just doing enough consistent damage on every hit to take him down in less than half the allotted time. I'm so happy with this champion, everybody. I really am. That was a very fun boss fight. And I also think it goes to show that outside of the armor break fights, the healing isn't that strong. Like, it kept us in a good place, but if I had taken even one special 1, it would have been like, oh god, I need the healing, not the healing is keeping me topped up. And that's just, yeah, really, really happy with how he's turned out. Feel like he's lining up well against bosses and other fights, but that you need to be able to play him to take him even a little bit outside his intended counters. Just really, I'm going to keep saying this, I'm really, really happy with my first champion. Unfortunately, the war overall did not go as well. We didn't play that poorly, right? But we had a couple silly things, and Legion, I think, only died once out of all 150 fights, and that's pretty freaking good, and we didn't play that well. So, you know, no harm, no foul on that loss. We've had a very tough schedule thus far. We are first in Platinum 1 after this war, and we just need to win some on the back half to climb back out of there. So until next time, thanks so much for watching, and take care.